Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Awaken the World. Tonight, Death of All Things. It is Saturday, the 9th of January in the year 2021, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You are here live. And I am technically still the Toothless Tiger. It'll be February, I think it was the 4th, when I'll actually have the new upper. But I did grind the existing one myself, and to be honest, I just haven't had time today to even bother putting them in. So tomorrow I'm going to put them in, and we'll see how things go. It's been a journey. It took me literally 7 minutes after I bought uh, a decent little tool to help me accomplish the task. So, what are we going to talk about tonight? Well, before we get to that, as always, let me just express my infinite love for each and every one of you. You are all exactly the way you need to be right now in this moment. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you right now. You're just fine. And you're perfect. And perfection is an evolution. There is nothing in this physical universe that is an end to a journey. And that which we would consider death, we would consider an end as well. And it's not. So let's talk about some of the really important little deaths before we talk about the big death. Because it's crucial to understand how, as the Buddhists like to view life, that all of life indeed is the preparation for death. Now, when they say that, that doesn't mean that their entire existence is focused on the day they die. What it means is they understand that rising and falling is the same as being born, living, and dying. In other words, we suffer, and many people do choose to suffer over this. I prefer not to, as many are learning to prefer not to. We choose to suffer little deaths over and over again, each and every day. So, an example of a little death can be something so simple as you go to open the fridge and you expect there to be that one more chocolate cupcake that you left there intentionally, that you've been savoring and waiting for, and you open the fridge and the cupcake is no longer there. Another member of your family absconded with it and must be hung. I'm sure many of you with children have had a moment similar to that in one way or another. I have not, but I've had roommates who might as well have been children. So that's an example of a little death, when an expectation of ours is not met. Now, those are very important, and we must be able to look at all these little deaths and understand what they're all trying to teach us and they're all pointing to. So, I'm just going to describe a couple other little deaths that we face. So, for example, there's the little death of your first love, your first relationship ever. You know, me, I was apparently 6 years old. Younger, actually, 5. And I fell in love with my my kindergarten teacher at 5 years old. I was head over heels in love with her. And of course, that relationship came to a quick and bitter end when I chose to buy her Chanel number 5 and bring it to class. At 5 years old, I had an appreciation for, it just, the point is that it was a death of something that I perceived. It could be a death of a marriage, a death of a longtime girlfriend or boyfriend, the death of a family member, the death of a way of thinking, the death of what we believe to be true. the death of our time with a vehicle, the death of a house. We lose the house or we move to a new place. The death of the relationships we had with friends that fade away. This is what it means to Buddhists and what we're trying to convey right now about how of life, all of life is really a preparation for death. And every day we're faced with these little deaths, even the death of time, realizing we've lost the day already. What are all these things trying to teach us? Well, not all only are they pointing to a very important truth that we must all look at very closely, they're literally teaching us that our perception of a death isn't death at all. It's actually just change. So we really wanted that cupcake, and the cupcake was taken by one of our other family members. So we decided instead to have a gingerbread cookie. Or one of my favorites, a half-frozen spoon of peanut butter, crunchy peanut butter. Just on a spoon, half frozen in the freezer for about 15 minutes. I absolutely adore it. The point is that it is only those things that we are so attached to that we incorporate them deeply in our personality that we truly suffer the death of when things change. But change and life are synonymous. That one consciousness that we are all manifested of and part of has no desire for a single experience to last forever. It wants a multitude of experience on a scale that is beyond our scope of imagination. So we are here in life to change. And we're changing on every level in every moment, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. Every particle of your being exchanges itself for new particles. In 1 year, there is not a single material aspect of yourself that existed a year ago. It's all been renewed. A lot of times it takes on the same crappy genetic code and produces the same wrinkles, but it's still been renewed. So we can see that when we resist life, when we resist change, we're actually also resisting death. Because life, death, and change really can't be separated. Here we are, perceiving we're alive in the physical realm, experiencing all these little deaths at that egoic level, preparing ourselves, hopefully, in the realization that so too anything born in this physical realm must eventually fall apart. And yet when it does fall apart, there is something that springs anew from it. You know, I'd like to share that Rumi poem a little bit. You know, it really does speak to death, and then I'm going to talk just briefly about my own experience with death. And the main reason I want to do this is we're still in a very difficult time, and there's still a lot of people who struggle with death and struggle with the death of loved ones and what happens when you die and whether they're okay or not. And I need you to know what I know. And as always, I don't ask you to blindly believe me. I ask you to see deep inside of you, see what rings true to you, ask if it feels right beyond the mental construct. So Rumi says, don't shed any tears, don't lament or feel sorry. I'm not falling into a monster's abyss. When you see my corpses being carried, don't cry for my leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm arriving at eternal love. the eternal love that we hide from ourselves every day. When you leave me in the grave, don't say goodbye. Remember, a grave is only a curtain for the paradise behind. That other side isn't some far off dimension. It's a curtain. The thing about a curtain is it separates two things that are very close together. It doesn't separate two long off places. And I want you to hold on to that and remember to that, because we're going to get back to that in a few minutes. You'll only see me descending into a grave now. Watch me rise. How can there be an end when the sun sets or the moon goes down? It looks like an end. It seems like a sunset. But in reality, it is a dawn. For every sunset we see is a dawn somewhere else. And we so easily forget that. You can view, for the purpose of this discussion we're having, that yin and yang coin, if you will, with the yin and yang on both sides of the coin. And we are on the upper side of the coin. And when you die, you're on the bottom side of the coin. And the only thing separating that top and bottom side is that thin little curtain, the thickness of the coin. Those who die, and we're all going to die, and die is really a word we just got to start to throw away. It's the most misunderstood concept of all. The moment that this physical form chooses to become recycling material, okay, is the moment of what we will term your death. Now, I've had the great fortune of dying twice for prolonged periods of time. And I'm not going to get deeply into the stories about it because there's already videos on that I've done. But here's what I do understand and what I do know is that there is no such thing as anybody leaving this earth at the wrong time. Anyone who dies when their mission has been fulfilled. When the tasks and learning and evolution and experience that they chose to participate in was over. When the message was delivered, when the lesson was given, participated in, when it's all said and done, you die one way or the other. And that can never be the wrong time. You live in a universe of perfection where everything that happens is perfect in what it offers us and perfect in its leading us to evolve and grow in conscious awareness and conscious awakening. And the moment that you would call your death or the death of anyone you may know around you is a glorious, happy, amazing moment of graduation. It fills my heart with joy when someone passes away. Because that person hasn't gone anywhere. As a matter of fact, they are now everywhere. And the mere thought of them in your head or my head is enough to draw everything that they truly are, all the best of them, right to you. More present than you could imagine in the physical realm, more available, more open, more knowing, more aware of exactly where you're coming from and what you and you can reach out and you can speak to what you would call the dead, and I swear to you, they hear you. They interact, they talk back. You know, as I said, I was fortunate enough to die twice, and the first time I died, I was gunning for God. I hated God with a passion. I wanted God dead, and there was a snarl on my face when I left this physical plane, and I was coming for him in spiritual form. And you can imagine how fast that evaporated when I realized that, hey, wait a minute, I'm not actually dead anymore. Still not ever. I'm just not in that thing, that vessel, that vehicle I was using. That dimensional tunnel does not cover a time and space. As a matter of fact, it's devoid of time, and the space is still right here. The tunnel isn't to somewhere, it's actually to now here. It's to nowhere, it's to right here, still. There's no separation. Nothing is ever lost. Nobody is ever left behind. And as someone who would have been very deserving of hell at the time of my first death, I can say categorically that there's no such place. Now, a lot of people have said to me, well, there are people who report through their near death experience that they have experienced hellish realms or hellish entities. And that is true. But if you read their stories, they also say that in the minute that they chose to no longer be there, they were taken out of those places. And in fact, it is here's how near death experience has to work. And this is why there's so many varied stories. And this is really important to understand. All of those varied stories are are lending so much validity to the new death experience. They're not taking away from it. And you have to understand why. When you go through a near death experience as I have twice, there is a large portion of your egoic self that is still very much aware and conscious in your experience. And the reason for that is obvious. It is necessary because you're coming back. And all of creation knows it, even if you don't know it at the time. Even if you haven't been clued in yet that this is actually a near-death experience for you and not the death experience for you. Dum dum dum. You're not aware of it yet, but all of creation knows that you're still coming back. So whatever is being created for you is a reflection of your egoic consciousness. But it is all the same thing. It is necessary to create it as a reflection of your egoic consciousness. A lot of it comes out of that subconscious space. That's true. You may not be always consciously aware of it. So if you're carrying deep subconscious guilt and believe you should be punished for it, and you have a near death experience, you may find yourself immediately after going through that vortex in a hellish realm. And in the moment that you say inside your own head, oh my God, I don't want to be here, please save me, poof, you'll be in a much more pleasant environment all of a sudden. Now, people have come back and reported those hellish realms, and they don't understand, as a lot of people don't, that all of these experiences are reflecting the same truth filtered through the individual egoic consciousness. A die-hard Christian who was born into the Catholic faith at the age of 5 and dies at 85 years old, a devout Catholic, and is having actually a near-death experience, he's not actually going to be dead, will not arrive on the other side and be met by Buddha. It wouldn't jive with him. He wouldn't be able to bring something back from that experience except confusion. So from his consciousness, it's far more likely that Mother Mary or Jesus may meet him, or another one of the apostles, or one of the angels, or one of his own relatives. It's whatever's going to work, whatever's going to have the most impact on the egoic being for the near-death experience, because those two aren't by accident. The near-death experience is like the hardest hit of the baseball bat. It's really the hardest swing that Shiva can give us. And that is a manifestation of God's compassion in destroying aspects of our lives that are doing us damage, including whacking us over the head hard enough to knock us into the next realm for a short period of time. And then you come back from that near-death experience. The only thing that death is the dropping away of the physical manifestation and a full realization of the truth of your existence, which dissolves all fear, doubt, and guilt in a heartbeat. But the egoic consciousness that is you today goes with that. That's the memory bank. Except now it's not a memory bank clouded or infected by the virus of fear, doubt, and guilt. And the biggest fear of all, the fear of death, has just evaporated. Now that egoic sense of self is whole and complete again within the framework of the multi-dimensional energetic beings that we truly are. And that's why Kelly, for example, has far better interactions with her father now that he's dead than she did when he was alive and a very devout Christian. He was a little too narrow-minded. Now he's much more open. Why? Because those parts of his consciousness have been raised up vibrationally. Death didn't actually happen. So why are we talking about this, and why is it important? Well, it is important because I see a lot of people who suffer with, they either suffer in silence under the fear that they may die or someone they love may die, and you need to know that there is no such thing as anyone leaving this mortal coil when they're not supposed to. And believe me, from someone who's directly experienced it twice, it doesn't matter how much guilt you hold, how much fear you have, how much anger or doubt, any of that. The moment you die is literally one thought to the next, and it is a peaceful experience. Considering what had happened to me, you wouldn't think it would have been peaceful. You would have think it would have been quite painful, but it is peaceful. When you realize you're going to let go, you're going to die consciously, egoically, it has to accept it. So it does. And in that moment, you are at peace. And that passing is less than a heartbeat. It's not some big drawn out experience. It's, I think I'm going to die, I'm not dead. But boy, do I ever feel lighter and better. Ah, look down, wait. That thing down there, that was me. That's what I was using. And the residual feel and image of you will still be with you. We are on a never-ending eternal journey that began before time did. These short-term momentary manifestations that we would call our human selves are nothing more than that. They are a vehicle that we have a very short-term lease on. Now, with all leases, you should do your best to look after the vehicle. That's for sure. But don't resist life. And more importantly, don't resist death. Don't resist the death of ideas, the death of the way you chose to believe, the death of your own anger, the death of a friend, the death of a relationship. See death as what it really is, a friend, a very loving friend that removes things from your life at just the right time, as one day you too will be removed from this particular physical life at just the right time. Death is holding open the door to the place where your suffering ceases to exist and your understanding and knowing becomes all understanding and all knowing. And in that moment, when you cross that so thin, paper thin barrier, you will indeed experience a love that to even think about it brings me to tears and causes waves of vibration throughout me. Have you ever seen a seed fall into earth not rise with a new life? Why should you doubt the rise of a seed named human? When for the last time you close your mouth, your words and soul will belong to the world of no place and no time. Much love to you this evening. Namaste. I hope you find this video helpful. Excuse me. When I think about what's waiting for me on the day when I die, it fills me with such joy, such love, such remembrance of the two occasions that I've already gone through it that I can't help but feel it start within me. You know, and here's the kicker. You are connected to that love, that pure love like that all the time. You can't be separate from it. It is streaming down upon you like an eternal sun tanning bed. It is only the shield of your egoic self that blocks the light from streaming on you. Open yourself to life, open yourself to death, and allow that light to shine upon you. Be at peace tonight. Namaste. Much love. We will speak again very soon.